What up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Canon M50 versus the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Which is a better camera, which one's a better value, and which one's better for you if you're starting your YouTube channel. Let's get into it. Whenever I'm doing comparison videos, I like to break my videos up into 3 different parts. First of all, photography, then videography, and then lastly, like a convenience and value part. And I'll get into each one and which camera wins for each separate section. So let's get right to it. First of all, with photography. And with photography, I gotta start with the iPhone and exactly what photography means when you're taking a photo with your iPhone, because I don't think many people are truly aware of the processes that happen when you take a picture on your phone. When you take an image on your phone, what it's really doing is taking 5 to 7 different exposures. It's exposing one photo for the sky and it's darkening that sky up a little bit, and then it's taking a photo of your face and then it's brightening your face up a little bit, and then that dark shade in the trees, it's gonna brighten that up and take another image, and it's gonna computationally edit all those images together and then show you the end product. It's called Smart HDR, and there's different things, but it's basically computational photography. It's phenomenal. It's really fascinating that it can do it all so quickly, but you need to know that all those things are happening in the background to get you that image. Whereas on your camera, you're just shooting one raw image. Whatever the data that sensor sees when you click that button, that's what you're getting shown, and that's the image that you have to work with. And so right off the bat, my first argument is what is better for you? Computational photography and having all those processes automated and done for you instantaneously in body? Or do you want a more traditional one image sent straight to that sensor and that data to work with in post? And really the question I urge you to ask yourself is what fits your shooting style better? What is better for you? Are you gonna have that raw image? Are you gonna wanna upload it to a computer, put it into Lightroom and Photoshop and maybe edit, tweak the colors, change the exposure, maybe crop it in, and do all those things, lens correction? Do you want to do that stuff, or do you want a fast system? Do you want a system that you just take your image and then you get an image that you can then share online or email right away? That's really the big difference between these two cameras as a whole, computational versus a more standard image. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, yes, does deliver a fantastic product, but it is hindered by the limitations of its actual hardware. For example, this is only a 12 megapixel sensor in this, and it's a very small, less than a 1-inch sensor in these phones and phones in general, versus a crop sensor that is significantly larger. I think 4.3 times larger in a crop sensor body than it is in a phone. And that sensor size is gonna play a big difference in overall capabilities of the images that you can get. Additionally, the 3 lenses that are in these phones are limited. They have limited capabilities. The ultra wide is an f2.4 lens, the wide is an f1.6 lens, and the telephoto is an f2.0 lens. Whereas the lens capabilities, even the lens that's on this is an f3.5 to 5.6. That's just the kit lens, but you can also change this lens out and get an f2.0 lens or an f1.8 lens. So the flexibility is significantly more. You have more control in a DSLR like the M50. Additionally, those measurements are not apples to apples. An f2.0 on a sensor this size is going to be equivalent to like an f5.6 on a sensor this size. You can see that the limitations are pretty vast between these two, and you really notice that when it comes to isolating your subject, depth of field, or low light control. When you're shooting low light in the iPhone, there's nothing more annoying than when you take it out and you go to take your image and you have someone smiling and it does that slow timed release type of thing. That is a horrible system. It's so annoying because 90% of the time your image is going to come out blurry. It's not going to be exposed correctly. It's going to be slow. It's going to annoy your subject and you're just not going to get the shot. Whereas the low light in the M50 is significantly better. You can crank up your ISO a little bit and you can keep your shutter speeds fast enough where you don't have to have that image blur and you don't get those blurry images. Nobody likes the portrait mode in the iPhone. I don't care who you are. 90% of the people do not like portrait mode because it's not accurate yet and they don't do a good enough job. Sometimes your ear will be, blurry while your face is sharp. If you do want those blurry images with a nice bokeh and the depth of field control, you're going to need to get the M50, and you're going to need to get a better lens than the kit lens. You're going to need to get something like a Sigma, I think it's a 16 mil 1.7. That lens can really get you some nice isolated depth of field. Lastly, you just have more data to work with because the M50 is a 24 megapixel versus a 12 megapixels in the iPhone. Now, those megapixels megapixels, they don't always count. You know, the A7S III is like a 12 megapixel and I could shoot some phenomenal photos in that. But you can definitely tell if you need to crop in an iPhone photo or do like a digital zoom in body, that 12 megapixels becomes really unusable very quickly. For photography, I'm not gonna say my winner is the M50, but really my winner is the M50 in general. But if convenience and speed is something that you need to worry about, or you just don't want to do all those things like post-processing and going into Lightroom, I'd actually say the iPhone 12 Pro Max is my winner, especially if you're not shooting a lot in low light and, you know, daylight type situations. I love the 12 Pro Max, but overall, my winner for photography is going to be the Canon M50 and really any mirrorless DSLR in general. Now let's move on to videography, and that's when things really tend to get interesting for me, because that's when this battle really tightens up. And that's because, in my opinion, usable video has to be smooth. Shaky footage, have you ever seen footage where it's just really shaky, really jittery, kind of makes you motion sick watching it back? That's just not usable video, not video that I'm gonna wanna watch back or save, you know, long term. And that's where the iPhone 12 Pro Max and really iPhones in general just become a usable tool. A great example is this: if I'm gonna go out and shoot my daughter playing soccer, and I have these two cameras just in my hand, I'm going to take the video on the 12 Pro Max, because the 12 Pro Max has optical image stabilization in the ultra wide, as well as digital image stabilization that's automated in the software in the video just right off the top. So all that to be said, this kind of nerdy tech talk for when you're shooting ultra wide video, especially in 4K, you're getting buttery smooth footage, like surprisingly smooth video. And it's just really convenient, really easy to use. So I could be holding this camera in my hand, running full speed, and be getting super smooth footage, where that is just impossible in a digital mirrorless SLR or any really DSLR camera in general. This is my stabilization test. I'm doing a side-by-side comparison. This is the iPhone on the wide angle. This is the Canon as wide as I can get it. I am just simply holding these with one hand side by side, and this is just me walking. Now, do bear in mind, I am shooting on the back iPhone cameras, so I'm not shooting with a front-facing screen, so I can't see what I look like, so I probably wouldn't vlog like this all the time. These are just the onboard mics. You may hear some wind noise, but how does it look in terms of stabilization? This is me walking. This is me jogging. This is me walking again. I can't see if I'm in focus. I can't see if I'm exposed correctly on the iPhone. So there is that. But how do we look overall? This is a side-by-side comparison. What do you guys think? You just cannot get that smooth of a footage right now out of any camera. And if you do want to get smooth footage like that, you're gonna need to put it on a gimbal, which is just, you're gonna have an extra piece of gear. If you don't know what that is, it's a piece of gear that stabilizes it and does what this thing does in body. That being said, let's talk about, like, as a YouTuber, if you're gonna be doing more YouTube studio footage like this, or like vlogging footage, that's where the M50 actually wins, because the front-facing camera on the iPhone is trash. It doesn't have any of those things like optical image stabilization, shallow depth of field, doesn't have a very good lens on it. It's just a small pinhole camera on the front, and it's just not very good. So for vlogging, it's not even a comparison. This flip out screen on the M50 really sets this thing apart, because now you can get really quality footage coming out of the M50. Additionally, any type of cinematic studio type footage, when I want some good contrast lighting, or cinematic footage, like if I'm doing a short film or any type of commercial work, or if I'm shooting anything cinematic at all, I'm gonna choose the M50, and the M50 is going to win because of the sensor size in the iPhone. It's just always gonna have that certain iPhone look to it. It's kind of like the GoPro, where the GoPro always has that GoPro looking saturated look to it. Same exact thing happens in the iPhone, even with the Dolby Vision and the Smart HDR and Deep Fusion and the LiDAR scanner. All those technologies, they all do a great job in making and masking the limitations of the small sensor, but you're still dealing with the small sensor. So as you can see, the footage is always gonna have that certain look to it, where it's just not gonna beat the M50. So any type of settings, like for studio work or YouTube work, I'm always gonna say the M50 is going to win there. But overall, I have to say, in the videography category, I'm gonna give my winner to the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It's more convenient, it's a better tool, I use it more, and it gives me better footage at a quicker and more convenient package. So that is my winner for video. Now let's move on to convenience and value, and that's where things really get interesting. So I'm gonna start with convenience, and of course, What's more convenient? The iPhone is more convenient. You have it on you all the time. You're quicker, it's faster. By the time I turn this camera on, even if I set it to automatic, turn it on, get my focus, get my settings, take the photo, it's just so much slower. I can even just press the camera button and now I'm ready to go. I can shoot burst mode, I can shoot my photos much faster, much quicker. So for convenience, the iPhone clearly wins, especially for video. It's just such a more convenient tool. But that being said, there are some more convenient things about the M50 and digital SLRs in general. For instance, in sunny, bright daylight settings, it's difficult to take a photo because the screen isn't that bright. It can only get so bright. And in a camera like the M50, I have the electronic viewfinder, so I can then shove my eye into the viewfinder and now block out all that sun and be able to see all my settings, see my focus points, see my exposure, and really take a nice crisp image. Things like having a hot shoe that I want to throw on external audio devices or a flash or something like that. It is more convenient on the SLR because I just have that hot shoe built in, whereas on the iPhone, I'd have to get some type of cage and then some type of mount to it, and this is just not very convenient. Additionally, things like battery life and storage of data. On the iPhone, you know, if your battery dies, you gotta recharge it. It's not very convenient to do that, but on the M50, I can have multiple batteries. And similarly with my storage capabilities, if I run out of storage on my iPhone, I'm screwed. I gotta do something with those images, like send them off to cloud storage or something like that. Whereas on the M50, I could just have multiple cards in my pocket or backpack all the time. So there is an argument to be made when you're traveling and on the go that there is some convenient things that something like the M50 is the winner to. But overall, I'm gonna give my convenience package winner to the iPhone, but there is that argument there, something for you to think about. Now let's talk about value, which is a better value overall. And this is where things really get dicey, because here's my argument. The iPhone 12 Pro Max is a $1,400 phone right now. The Canon M50 is a $500 camera with a kit lens, brand new. Used, you can find them for $450 right now. And so that's a big price difference between the two. And I'm saying that the M50 wins in terms of, you know, image quality and certain things. So value is a tough one here. I would say this. The question really is it more valuable for you? Because obviously this is not just a camera, right? This is also a phone, this is also a computer, this is your lifeline. It does so many different things. But is it more valuable for you to get a cheaper iPhone, like an $800 iPhone and a $500 camera? Or is it more valuable to get a $1,400 phone that has a better camera in it? What is the difference between the iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 12 Pro Max? Really, the iPhone differences, besides maybe processor and better battery life, the bigger differences is in the cameras. That's where the newest selling points always are. And the marketing ploys are always around the cameras. But I think it's a better value and better quality overall to get maybe an iPhone 10 for $700, have majority of the features and capabilities that this thing can do as the 12 Pro Max, and then get a $500 camera and be able to have all those additional quality features that the M50 brings to the table. So I think in terms of value, I think it's more valuable to pay $500 and get you a Canon M50 or, you know, a digital SLR and have that as your dedicated content creation tool, especially for YouTubers or vloggers. It's much more valuable to have a camera and a cheaper phone than it is to pay $1,400 for the 12 Pro Max. In my opinion, to close this out, I always like having a camera as opposed to just a jack of all trades like this thing. I like having a camera as my tool to have on me all the time. There's something to be said for having manual controls, being able to change your shutter speed with something tactical on the body, changing your aperture, changing your ISO, whereas on this you have to, you know, tap and move things around and you're always looking at a screen to do it. I just like having a camera in my hands. I like having an electronic viewfinder to get my shot and frame things up. And then I like shooting raw and being able to have all that data, pull it on my computer and really edit and tell my story that way. So for me, the winner is the M50. It's always going to be the winner for me to have a dedicated camera. But for many of you, I would say, especially if you don't want to put in all that work or effort and you're just doing things for social media or whatnot, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is a fantastic tool to have. I won't knock it. It's incredible. It takes really amazing, stunningly beautiful images and video for what it is. So that's all I got for this this video. I hope it brought you some value. If it did, hit me with a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're just starting off your YouTube channel, I would say this: use your iPhone if you have it. Get the best possible quality that you can out of it. And for that, check out some of my other videos in terms of lighting and YouTube studio setup tips and tricks. Comment below if you are starting out with that channel. I'd love to see some of the work that you guys are doing. And I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.